Hello everyone, it's Seth, probably better known as Saffron Olive, and it's time for another Instant Deck Tech. So, as you know, Thursday means it's tier deck time, and this week we are heading to Modern to check out a deck that's really climbed into the top tier of the format just recently. So, Tron has been a tier 1 deck for a long time. There's some ebb and flow, it goes up and down depending on the meta, but it's been firmly near the top of the format for years. However, the idea of combining Tron and Eldrazi to form Eldrazi Tron, while the idea has been around for a while, the deck really just recently, in the last month or two, has kind of climbed up to the top of the format, and that's the deck we're going to be looking at today. A deck that combines not only the Tron lands, but also Eldrazi Temple to just play a massive amount of lands that tap for multiple mana, and then use those lands to cast some really powerful Eldrazi really quickly. So this version recently took Darkest Mage to a 5-0 finish in a Magic Online League, but like all of our tier decks, it's kind of a known archetype. There's lots of people playing similar builds of the deck, but congrats to Darkest Mage on their finish with the deck. A quick reminder before we break it all down: if you enjoy this deck and you want to see it made into videos, take a minute, click the like button, the subscribe button, leave a comment, anything you can do to support your deck, because whichever deck is most popular gets a shot at being made into videos next week. So Eldrazi Tron is all about the lands. That is the key part of this deck. So you have the Tron lands, which, if you can get all three on the battlefield together, make 7 mana, so 2 of them tap for 2 mana, 1 taps for 3 mana, and then, as a backup, since we're playing primarily Eldrazi as our creatures, and our deck is 100% colorless, we get to play Eldrazi Temple as well. So we have a massive 16 lands that have potential to tap for multiple mana. So you can cast your huge Eldrazi relatively quickly. If you get Tron set up, the deck is really insane. You can be to the point of casting Ulamogs and Kozileks as early as turn 4, but even just Eldrazi Temple, a couple lands, playing Thought Knot a turn earlier is really powerful. So these are the cards that really make the deck tick, and we have Expedition Map to help set them up. So the interesting thing about this deck, in normal Tron decks, you almost always use Expedition Map to search up missing Tron pieces. In this deck, though, I've seen people playing it, and it's not uncommon to search out Eldrazi Temples before you search out Tron pieces, because with this deck, having 2 Eldrazi Temples, for example, is almost as powerful as having Tron, because you're fine just making mana with your Eldrazi Temples and then putting Tron together later, because with 2 Eldrazi Temples, you can still cast your stuff super quickly, and then your Tron lands are still tapping for 1 mana, so you're still playing turn 2 Thought Knots, turn 3 Reality Smashers, and then if you get Tron set up and can cast Ulamog in the late game, that's great. As far as what we're actually casting, the deck plays a lot of Eldrazi, so Matter Reshaper, the 3-drop into Thought Knot Seer, the 4-drop into Reality Smasher, the 5-drop into Endbringer, which is kind of unique. You don't usually see Endbringers, so this curve creates just a really above-the-curve powerful effect. Matter Reshaper, not super huge on its own, but when it dies, it can get you another Tron piece, potentially, put a land on the battlefield. Thought Knot Seer disrupts your opponent's hand. Reality Smasher, super hard to kill, always a 2-for-1, or usually a 2-for-1 to deal with. Plus, at 5/5 with Haste and Trample, it closes out the game quickly, and then Endbringer does everything. You can ping to death tokens and Young Pyromancers and Unflipped Delvers. You can make it so your opponent can't block with their best blocker, or attack with their best attacker if they have a Inkmoth Nexus or a Blighted Agent, and then you can just use it to generate card advantage, and you get to do this twice each turn cycle because it untaps on your opponent's turn as well. And then, at the top of the curve, kind of the late-game finishers, we have an Ulamog the Ceaseless Hunger and Kozilek the Great Distortion. So these ones do require Tron. You're not going to get to them very easily without Tron, but you can occasionally just nut draw into turn 3 Tron, another Urzur's Tower on turn 4, and cast an Ulamog or cast a Kozilek, and it gives the deck a way to just close out the game super fast. The rest of the Eldrazi creatures include Spellskite, just for a bit of protection, helps against Infect and Burn, also keeps your Eldrazi alive against Path to Exile and so forth, and some Batterskulls for life gain. And then the spells, we have a bunch of removals. So Warping Whale kills creatures in the early game, also counters sorceries, which is nice, and can get you that 1 extra mana you need. If you have Tron plus Eldrazi Temple, you're 1 short from an Ulamog or Kozilek. You can make a Scion token, sack it, cast your huge Eldrazi. Dismember gives you a colorless removal spell, and then All Is Dust, kind of the Eldrazi Wrath. And then we have Chalice of the Void as well, which is kind of another free win card, so you can just cast this on turn 2, set it on 1, and that can lock some decks out of the game. It's super hard for Storm decks, for some cantrippy combo decks to win with a Chalice on 1, and as the game goes on and you set up Tron, you can potentially set it on 2 or on 3 or on 4. The rest of the mana base, Gemstone Caverns, can start on the battlefield if you are not playing first and you have it in your opening hand and you cost you a land. But basically, it's a way you can luck into a turn 1 Chalice or a turn 1 Matter Reshaper if you have Eldrazi Temple. Seagate Wreckage gives you some card advantage and then some waste as colorless lands that don't scoop to Blood Moon. In the sideboard, we get some big removal stuff. Karn Liberated, All Is Dust, Oblivion Stone. These are great ways to really wreck your opponent that's flooding the board with stuff. Karn disrupts your opponent's hand, has so much loyalty it's hard to deal with. All Is Dust, Oblivion Stone are true sweepers. Ratchet Bomb is really helpful against non-creature permanents, which a colorless deck struggles against. Also good against tokens, your opponent Lingering Soul, Flashback Lingering Souls. You can Ratchet Bomb, wipe them all away. Another Warping Whale and some Spatial Contortions for additional removal. Kills a little bit bigger things. Relic of Progenitist, fight Dread. Other graveyard-based decks, Snapcaster decks, Tarmogoyf decks, Pithing Needle to deal with Planeswalkers, other non-creature permanents, and then Basilisk Collar is a bit of life gain to help in aggressive matchups. If you can get a Basilisk Collar on a Reality Smasher, it's going to be really hard for Burn to stay in the game. So that is Eldrazi Tron for Modern, and that's been our Instant Deck for today. So thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I will talk to you soon.